Rumor has it we're back in Giga Macho, and this place will get a name change in Eternal Punishment.
Rumor has it that we're back and we messed up the first recording and we're doing this again, but it's okay because it's Persona, and everyone enjoys it anyway. Persona. Okay, Philemon, let's go. Man, break open this record store.
I love I love the English voices in Persona 1, or I guess Revelations Persona, so that we can differentiate that from the Japanese version more easily. Because it's ridiculous how much was changed in localization for that. And also, something else that I kind of want to bring up with that is, like, they didn't change much of anything with Innocent Sin in comparison. So it's like, why is Eternal Punishment still something that's stuck in Japan? Because this was barely changed except for the language.
Yeah, it really is curious of why that version of the game is stuck over there and we never got it. It's like, I think it's because also Atlas was just a company at the time that was just really obscure and niche, and even with Persona 3 and a little bit with Persona 4, this company didn't have a lot of Western clout, you know? Not the way it does now, where we can get literal Persona 5 reveals on buildings in New York and Los Angeles, you know?
Speaking of,
it's definitely grown a lot.
I both love and hate how someone made a Photoshop of basically the hologram projectors on the sides of the building used on a fake news report, where it's like, terrorist or video game?
Right, yeah, is this a bomb threat or is this a video game? It's like, the literal joke, the people were joking that would happen, and news outlets proved them right.
No, I mean, that's kind of crazy. That was in and of itself a Photoshop, but at the end of the day...
Oh, I thought that was a real story when I heard it.
Yeah, so did I, because it's so painfully believable.
Yeah. Trust me, there's still a lot of freaking annoying parody fake news about Persona these days, so I wouldn't have been so surprised.
Yeah, like Eternal Punishment getting a remake next year.
Or Persona 3 getting a remake next year.
Gotta love those Twitter accounts that fake everything like that.
Yeah, we don't hurt anybody, but we're also annoying a lot of people.
You hurt my mood.
You killed my vibe, fam. Do I sound like a 20-year-old now? Am I fitting
vibe
in
check.
My generation? Did I... Lord. Man, even my dude bro friend doesn't talk like that.
Oh, he's
it's
not
like,
on a...
Jesus, this just shows how he's not what?
So he's not, like, on a Kichi levels yet.
No, he's not a Kichi. I'm kind of sad, though. I kind of want my own Kichi Ryuji. Yeah, and I'm kind of sad, though, because, I mean, as much as I can criticize those characters, I still kind of want I still want my dude bro friend, you know? I think, and everyone wants, like... Yeah, and I think it's natural for humans. I think even girls want that girly girlfriend, even if you're, you know, not into that stuff as much.
Yeah, or at the very least have someone who's not like that, but has a trait similar to it. It's like, it's understandable. There's these always going to be things that you want with that are kind of tie into Persona character traits.
Yeah. Yeah, or even then, and even in real life, I think, like, and I think that's a good balance, like, of how you feel in real life, where it's like, I think, you know, it's easy for people on the internet to go, oh, dude bros, Call of Duty, Mountain Dew, like, blah, blah. It's a stereotypical joke, but at the end of the day, we all kind of want those stereotype friends, or even just friends that are, like, you know, in that range, because it just kind of, it balances people, and I think some people on the internet don't really accept that as much, and that's why they have social problems, but let's not get into that. Yeah. That's a time for Persona 3 through 5 where we can talk about social problems.
Yeah, especially with 5, because 5 Royal is coming out in March 31st of next year, and I can't wait for it, honestly.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait for it either, even if it's coming a couple weeks, and that's going to be a really, really busy month with Final Fantasy VII Remake and, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
And again, speaking of Persona 5 in Persona 2, I love how I mistook Akechi for Ryuji, because we can't stress enough, these are pretty much Akechi, or Akechi is better Ryuji, and Lisa is better on.
Yeah. And we kind of keep doing that parallel with 5, and I can't wait to go under the 5 side of it when Royal comes out and see if they really change things about it. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, I think those are the only 2 characters that are really similar to Persona 5 characters at the end of the day.
Well, I think that honestly, well, it's kind of a little difficult to say, but I could see some parallels between maybe Makoto and Yukino.
Maybe a little bit, but I think their entire personality crutches are so off base that I don't see it as much as with Ryuji and Akichi, who have very similar dilemmas in life and very similar attitudes on approaching those dilemmas. Yeah, and An and Lisa, who have the same archetype of being Americans in Japan and having to deal with that, and also having to deal with the idea of becoming being models and becoming idols. I think, whereas Yukino's kind of a reporter and Makoto's kind of a grade A police student. They're both different, but there's parallels there for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. I
think. Go ahead.
That is interesting to think about, like, what other parallels there are for Persona 5 characters compared to Persona 2. Because again, Lisa and Akichi, or Lisa and An and Akichi and Ryuji are again pretty much the bases for their Persona 5 counterparts, and it hurts because they've just done so much better here.
Yeah, even down to the fact that, like, Ryuji and Akichi especially, like, both of them approach their issues almost the same way, in that at first they kind of deal with their stuff, they want to deal with their stuff on their own, and they feel empowered by doing it almost on their own. And I think Akichi and Ryuji both have their grander moments with the protagonist's help, but also doing it on their own. And I think that's, and I can dog Ryuji a little bit, but I do think that's still an endearing character story. I've been kind of criticizing Persona 5's story a little bit, but even the worst parts of a Persona 5 character trait is still some of the best story writing in gaming, in a weird way.
Overall, yeah, I would agree on that, but at the same time, I still think Persona 2 does it better.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of Persona 2 bias there. Like, I can call Legon out a little bit on it. He loves Persona 5,
that's fairly understandable.
His favorite is Persona. Yeah, Persona 2 is his favorite.
If you couldn't tell, this is... if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I don't have any bias, but my favorite's Persona 4, and I haven't been making that comparison as much because I just don't see any...
Because there's
differences in writing.
Comparison.
Yeah, there's also just differences in writing here, where I could see Persona 2 being written better, but Persona 4 also has its moments, and Persona 5 is also pretty great, And Persona 3 is fun as well. It's just my least favorite of the ones.
It's where they started to change it, and it's... I guess it's just one of those cases where you can tell it's their first time trying to do it in the new style. For better and for worse.
Yeah, for better and for worse. And I think that's what's so interesting about the 5 Persona games is, like, I think there's only genuinely one you could argue is the worst of the bunch, and that's obviously Persona 1. Even the remake was pretty lackluster because it's just such a... You can't polish a design that is already very bland and boring,
Yeah, along with the fact that the Persona 1 PSP remake was just an absolute mess in terms of everything. It wasn't even the game that it was remaking that was the full fault of it. It was, hey, Persona 3 is more popular than Persona 2 and 1 were at launch. Let's base the remake of Persona 1, a game that's practically nothing like it, on this in terms of everything aesthetic. And musical and all that. And it completely kills the feel of the game and everything except the actual gameplay.
Yeah, and the gameplay, if they could have changed it to Persona 3 gameplay, I'm sure they would have, but you couldn't call it a Persona 1, port at that... near remake. It's one of those weird porty remakes that's, it keeps some of the core of what the game is, but it updates everything else. Kind of like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro remakes. It keeps a lot of what these games were at their core, but upgrades and, polishes them as best they can, and, unlike Crash and Spyro... Yeah, unlike Crash and Spyro, Persona 1 is just a game that there's just not much there to really make great, Even Crash... It's kind of like Crash 1 in that of the remakes you play of the Crash trilogy, yeah, Crash 1 feels better and it looks better.
And
it has
you
some
can die
improvements.
in Crash 1 without having to worry about resetting.
Yeah, and that it has those improvements, but it's still Crash 1, and the level design still doesn't support the kind of gameplay that it later would have.
It's still the first entry in the series for better and for worse.
Yeah, and I know Legon says that phrase a lot, but a lot of our conversations can boil down to or for better or worse comparisons. So I definitely agree with him there. Anyway, you want to explain more of what's going on in Persona 2 after our philosophical tangent?
Yeah, with only wish we could get Philemon on here for that philosophical tangent.
I get it. Fucking end this part now. Awful. Awful
Okay,
puns.
fine. But
no, but yeah.
What's
continue.
going on here is pretty much... Basically what I'm doing throughout this entire part is exploring the entirety of Giga Macho, and basically going through all of these enemies and all that, and it's like... At this point, I'm realizing, okay, I should probably start negotiating with some of these so that I can just get them out of the way and not have to bother with them, because the Minotaurs, they're just tanks in terms of HP and defense and actual damage output. They're absolutely annoying to deal with and take absolutely forever to actually kill. And it's like, at that point, I'm not going to bother fighting you, and I'm just going to negotiate, because that gets it over so much faster.
Right. Which is kind of a Persona thing in the majority of the series, where it's like you're gonna get to points where it's like, yeah, there's enemies that are just designed to be a real beefy, hard-hitting
Yeah,
situation.
there's the enemies that are designed to be tanks.
Yeah, and you're just gonna want to find your ways out of those instead, without having to just brute force it, you know? I actually think it's some of the best, like, I think a good RPG has a lot of that enemy design in it, because you have things like FF7 that are great, but it's so easy to be overpowered and overlevel everything, to the point of nothing can really touch you at that point, except for super bosses and maybe bosses in general.
Yeah,
so I think
Persona
an
has
RPG that can have...
that's where it's like, yeah, these are always going to be trouble for you, especially with the way the game works and the system it's designed in. Which is not for its detriment, I think. It's more for its benefit, because, yeah, like you said earlier, when you're over-leveled compared to everything, there's no difficulty at all. It's just, I'm going to beat this thing up.
Mash A or X to get to the end of the game. And it's kind of a problem that I'm having with .hack lately. And I don't know if it'll get better in the Volume 2 that I'm in right now, but I keep feeling like, at least in Volume 1, that I was kind of getting to a point unintentionally where I would just be starting a match in the story. Yeah. Well, yeah, starting a match in the story and it ends in a second. You know, that's the real detailed example, and it's like, that sucks as a game, you know? That's not fun. It's not to criticize the game deeply, but it can be unfun to do that.
Yeah, there's no real satisfaction out of no challenge. And something like
this... Yeah, and I think enemies...
Like, here, it's like there's also the whole thing of, yeah, that's a problem that you kind of can't deal with, and there's a workaround for it. And some things can be argued, it's like you shouldn't need a workaround, but at the same time, when there's absolutely no, like, okay, I'm wording that really wrong, but and when there's something that you can only deal with via a workaround, it starts to become a problem of, should this stay in the game at all?
Yeah, it becomes a problem of, if you need a workaround to solve a problem, then why is the game designed in that way to begin with? You know, I shouldn't need to...
I do not think that these, like the Minotaur enemies in particular, have that problem, because it's like, if you...
No.
Because, I mean, personally, I just don't run away from battles in Persona 2, ever. Unless it's, like, a very special exception.
Yeah, and I think, like,
in normal
I don't think a Minotaur is...
run away, it's like, you see the enemy, normally, it's like, I know that these guys take a lot of damage, and they deal a lot of damage, so I'm going to either run away, like, there are multiple ways you can deal with it, instead of just, oh, I have to do this way, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think the Minotaurs are not as much you need to work around to deal with them, as much as they're the design that you need to strategize around, you know? It's an intentional... Like, they're intentionally really strong so that you don't just think you can brute force everything and use your strongest persona on everything indefinitely.
Yeah, it's basically a reminder, hey, you have more than just the attack button to use.
Yeah. Yeah, or you even have more than just spell. I mean, I think it's a level of strategy that Persona kind of has lost a little bit. I don't think it's lost it too deeply, but there are definitely situations where, yeah, having
It
the
hasn't
god
lost it
personas
entirely,
make everything
but
better.
it's certainly diminished.
Yeah. Man, you really gotta let me finish my points sometimes. You keep trying to finish my points for me, and it's like, fucking stop.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can't help that sometimes.
No, it's fine. I know I get a little too verbose, but I don't know. I definitely get where you're coming from. Like, I think Persona 2 is kind of the best example of like a blend between having strategy and having a fun story, a good story. You know, Persona 1 was kind of the base. 2 kind of mastered it, and
Yeah.
3 and 4 and 5 go for something different, and they're still pretty good in that regard.
Yeah,
so.
they're good, and it's different, but there are good things and bad things about that, which we will very much get into when we get to Persona 5, which I think is personally the best of the new system.
Yeah, I think Persona 5 is the best of all the sum of the new system, even if other parts of both 3 and 4 do things better than 5.
Yeah, overall it's...
So.
Yeah, again, overall it's pretty much the best of the new Persona system, but for the classic Persona system, I'd go with this over Persona 1 any day. Without question. And it's also at this point that I forgot how big Gigamacho is as a dungeon. It's like, we're still in here, and we fought at least one extra boss that was actually pretty much just an extra high-level enemy, and it's like, we're still not done.
I'm sure as usual you'll see the boss strats on the screen, because Legon does a pretty good job of editing that stuff in.
Yeah.
Because we like to go on tangents during Persona. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is definitely a big dungeon. This is the part of the game where the dungeons are starting to become big, meaty, beefy boys, and but it's not. We've already passed the threshold of the worst length dungeon in the game. The one we had to do 4 times, obviously, the mine shaft.
3 actually, but yeah, that's certainly the worst of it.
Yeah, this is the second wall, but it's not as bad. The only thing that sucks is kind of the musical deficiency. The music, yeah, as Legon so graciously gave us an example of, the fact that it's an audio design flaw. That's the worst part of it. Makes it a pretty fun dungeon.
Yeah, it's not a bad dungeon by any means, and if you really know what you're doing, you can get through it really quickly, but I'm just going through this to show everything off, and there is a lot here.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cute that the entire plot line that has to do with being a music idol takes place in a dungeon that's basically a CD shop. I think that's kind of funny. I didn't think about it the first time we recorded this, actually. Now that I think about it, it's definitely there.
Yeah, and I also just love the fact that in Eternal Punishment, it's renamed to the Seedy CD.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, you're gonna make a lot of business sales if you just go basic and straight to the punch with your naming conventions. You know, I mean, there's a soup place called Super Saiyan, and it's supposed to be Dragon Ball Z themed soup. It's like, that's straightforward.
Why are you buying clothes at the soup store?
Why are you buying? Put that clip in. Just the end of it or something. Why are you buying clothes at the soup store? I don't know. Why are you? Fuck you.
I love that clip so much.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most famous, like, abridged clips in the entire medium. You know, TFS is so famous for their abridged stuff, but, man, there are some people that really hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So good,
back to the game. Here I'm realizing, here's another way to negotiate with Minotaurs. I don't just have to scare him off. Let me punch it. Now I'm its friend.
Now, you know, sometimes you just really...
negotiating way.
Let me punch you in the face. That means I like you. I said this in the first recording session too. It's like sometimes you just need to hit your friends. You know, it may be a hot take, but sometimes you really just need to fight with your friends. Yeah, you need to let them know that you like them sometimes. Still, by hitting them really hard
Sonic
in the face.
and the Secret Rings is better than Sonic Colors. That's when you need to slap them in the face.
Yeah, or thinking Sonic 06 is better than Sonic Adventure 1, which is the more apt what the fuck. But let's not get violent here right now, you know? And this is not one of those moments, even though you're wrong and deserve it. I mean, what? Who was saying that? Wasn't you.
Yeah, I can accept that I'm wrong, but I'm still going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have the wrong opinions that we all know is wrong.
Yeah, because... Like, I know that there are some people out there whose guilty pleasure Sonic game is Shadow the Hedgehog, and I'm not gonna give them any flack for that, because one playthrough of that game is not horrible. If you like 100%ing it, though, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're a masochist, and you like pain, and you like to just, you know, have nothing better to do with your time.
No,
and that's okay. Sometimes, yeah, well, yeah. Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald? It's stuck up your ass!
You know, since we mentioned multiple extra boss enemies earlier, this is the second one of them. The first one was a Wraith who was basically sleeping in a coffin until we woke him up. This is Rasputin, based off of the... I think he's a Russian priest, I believe.
Yeah, it was in a very there's not a lot of records of the era, but it's like during the Romanov era of Russia, and he died by falling into a fucking frozen lake. So there's a lot better ways to die in the world.
Yeah. And basically what he's doing here is casting multiple instant kill spells that have a random chance of working. None of my party members are weak to light or dark, so not all of them are going to instantly die from it, but the ones that do instantly mess up my entire strategy. And the other thing also about him is that since he is a priest kind of enemy, he's immune to all magic. All magic.
Right. Which makes sense. I mean, you know, why wouldn't you be immune to all magic? If you're a priest, you should know all the counters and all the immunity spells to put on yourself forever.
Yeah, that's how it works in Final Fantasy.
Well, I mean, you say that, but it's kind of true. Like, even in Final Fantasy IX in particular, you can pretty much negate every single status effect in the game if you want to dedicate all your AP to it.
Yeah, so, it's also at this point in the game that I'm realizing I don't have enough revival items because I just used up all of them. And how do I beat this guy up? By beating him up with my fist. Because magic doesn't work. Thanks for showing me, Akichi and Maya, that died and didn't realize that.
Well, listen, okay, we need to make... Sometimes you need examples before you can learn the strategies. You know, casualties of war.
Yeah, casualties of war.
It's no problem. We'll get them back up with we'll just slap them in the face with the revival bead until they wake up. Don't worry about it. Oh wait, we don't have any because Legon forgot to go to the store and buy them. Shit! How did you forget to buy your complimentary rosaries, Legon? They're like $1 at the store.
Yeah, but we're working with yen here. They're like 10,000 yen.
Jesus Christ! If the rate for $1 is 10,000 yen, I don't want to live in Japan. That's awful.
No, I think it's more like $1 is like 100.
Like 100 yen. Yeah, I think it's like 100 yen. Yeah. It's one of those like weird. Like, I always think the value of yen is so inflated and crazy.
Yeah, this fight will end soon enough because I have very much realized just beat him up with my fist attack.
Yeah. And it's a great comparison because we were just saying, you know, sometimes it's really good to have enemies that are good to strategize, and I think that what makes Persona 2 and some of the Persona series in general really good at, like, gameplay design is the ability to just mix them up like that. Like, you can go from the Minotaur, who's designed to figure out another way around this without just beating it up, to this guy is literally, you can't use any of your strategy or magic, just beat him up.
You can't do anything but beat him up.
Yeah, just beat him up. And I think it's a really good mix-up, and it really makes the gameplay fresh and entertaining, even on multiple playthroughs, because you realize that you're not going to be doing the same thing again and again and again.
At the very least, the music itself is very fantastic. I love this soundtrack so much. And to just get into that a little bit, because 2 more party members just died, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have enough time for after that. I do think that Persona 2's soundtrack has a lot of great songs, but in terms of the modern Persona games, I think that they have better great songs in the modern Persona games compared to the great songs in this one. But this one, at the same time, has a lot more of those songs. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. I think a lot of the big hits in Persona 3 are home run hits, but Persona 2 has that consistency level where it does the job. You know, it does the job very well.
Yeah, you don't have like one track you love and then immediately the next 6 are ones that you absolutely can't stand.
Yeah, or just forgettable or just good. You know, I mean, I think Persona 2 has a lot of great tracks. None are spectacular, but Personas 3 through 5 have a lot of spectacular tracks, but then a lot of, like, this is just okay.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to call it apart for this episode of Persona 2. We'll see you guys next time when we finish up Giga Macho.